NBA is a very well-known brand. Since it is one of the most well-known companies in the world, the league takes its reputation very seriously. However, there have been numerous controversies in recent years, and it appears the league will always be desperate to maintain that reputation. In the case of Robert Sarver's suspension, it is the situation. Hey everybody, welcome to yet another video. Today we will discuss the recent issue involving the Suns owner Robert Sarver and the NBA. Before moving forward, kindly like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell icon so you do not miss any new video in the future. The owner of the NBA's Phoenix Suns is Robert Sarver. He also owns the Phoenix Mercury in the WNBA. After earning his degree from the University of Arizona, Sarver bought the two teams in 2004. Sarver has presided over numerous significant occasions in the history of the Suns. He has presided over the team's recent quick resurgence, which allowed them to win the #1 seed in the Western Conference for the first time since 2004, and the only fourth time in the 54-year history of the organization. NBA fans recently learned about the murky secrets circulating in the Suns front office after a scandal that was kept hidden for a while. As the most contentious player in the NBA now, Robert Sarver is constantly making headlines. He spent years being investigated for bad workplace behavior, but he consistently refuted the charges. He released a statement in October of last year asserting that all of the accusations were untrue. The primary owner of the Phoenix Suns, Sarver, has recently come under fire for his wrongdoings and other bad manners. Former Los Angeles Clippers owner Donald Sterling was permanently banned from the NBA on April 29, 2014, because of racial remarks he made that were captured in audio. The suspension led to his ultimate forced sale of the Clippers, which needed approval from the other team owners by a 3/4 majority. On the tape, Sterling berated V. Stiviano, his friend, for posting an Instagram photo of herself with Magic Johnson, and admonished her to not take pictures with black people. Robert Sarver, the governor of the Phoenix Suns, was charged in reports last year with fostering a hostile work environment through racism, misogyny, and harsh treatment of employees throughout his 17-year tenure. 80 years later, his punishment was thought to set a precedent for how the NBA would handle Sarver. Instead, those expectations were wholly unmet by what occurred a few days ago. Sarver received a 1-year suspension and a $10 million punishment, the NBA declared. Sarver's racial remarks, according to Commissioner Adam Silver, were beyond the pale but wholly of a different kind, whatever that means. Fans were upset and thought another ouster was necessary. According to a statement from the league, an inquiry into Sarver revealed that they engaged in behavior that was obviously against the rules and practices of the organization and the league, as well as normal workplace standards. Racially insensitive language was used. People were treated unfairly, and some employees were subjected to harsh treatment that occasionally amounted to bullying. Suns and Mercury owner Robert Sarver admitted to detesting diversity, used the N-word repeatedly while retelling statements made by others, treated employees unfairly, and got harsh with other employees at the same time too, and yelled and cursed at staff members on 5 separate occasions. Sarver added demeaning and abusive treatment of employees to this long list of offenses. They were yelled at and called names. Sarver has been barred from both organizations for a year because of his activities. He must completely avoid both organizations for a year and is not permitted to attend any of the team's events. He must also complete a training program centered on respect and acceptable workplace conduct, according to the league. But Robert Sarver has opted not to pay the penalty. The fine will be handled by the league and the court, who will also make sure he pays it. Many people want the league to expel Robert Sarver. Recently, the league investigated him and his team. He was a terrible owner, according to reports. He was also a bully and a racist. More than 70 victims have come forward to accuse him. Robert engaged in instances of unfair behavior towards employees, according to the probe, and made several inappropriate comments to the people. Knowing about it, the public is outraged, and they criticized the league for continuing to do business with such a person since 2004. He will be absent from all NBA and WNBA-related activities for at least a year because of the impending suspension. As mentioned before, this is a predicament that the NBA has seen. The former owner of the Clippers, Donald Sterling, was recorded in 2014 making fun of his mistress for hanging out with black people. Additionally, Sterling said numerous other bigoted things and was subject to an inquiry into harassment claim. Following widespread criticism of these issues, the NBA decided to hold a league vote to determine whether Sterling should be made to sell the franchise. The vote was comfortably approved, and Sterling was no longer the team's owner. When Adam Silver made the announcement, it was only natural for the NBA to receive acclaim for dealing a just punishment to a deserving individual. When it was discovered that Robert Sarver had effectively committed identical crimes, he was given a very light sentence. Now that Silver has said the circumstances are dramatically different, the NBA's conclusion appears hollow. The worst kind of people are in fact Robert Sarver and Donald Sterling. Both were old, wealthy men who had a history of racism. Many men like him have been wealthy enough to get away with their behavior, as is typical in our society. The NBA's handling of Sterling appeared to create a precedent. They utterly overturned it by punishing Sarver ineffectively. The NBA messed up in this situation. Robert Sarver should never again be involved in the NBA in any form. However, the NBA's mild sentence demonstrates how superficially they interpreted Sarver's behavior. Although unfortunate, it's not wholly unexpected. LeBron James, the King, is one of the first athletes to comment on the subject at hand. If Silver changes his mind, it will probably be at the player's insistence given his staunch attitude in his press conference. To put the players in a position of having to demand change is completely unjust, as happened with Sterling and the Clippers in the 2014 playoffs. If something were to occur this time, it would probably begin with James' tweet on Wednesday and more players following his example. James deserves praise for his willingness to speak out on issues like this outside of court, despite the intense scrutiny that every word he says is subject to. James hasn't been afraid to use the weight of his words, which are particularly weighty within the NBA when he feels it's essential. Nothing may ultimately alter the NBA's decision to punish Sarver, especially given how extensive their investigation was before reaching that determination. But the fact that LeBron James is objecting to how the NBA handled it is not a trivial concern. The National Basketball Players Association president and point guard for the Suns, Chris Paul, also tweeted that the punishment fell short of what he had hoped for. Draymond Green, a star for the Golden State Warriors, keeps voicing his opinions on crucial topics affecting the NBA. His most recent subject of conversation was racism in business, more notably the effects of the Robert Sarver controversy. The result of an independent investigation into allegations of racial and gender-based abuse against the managing partner of the Phoenix Suns were made public by the league last week. These conclusions led to Sarver receiving a hefty $10 million punishment for a one-year suspension from the Suns Mercury franchise. However, some feel that the response made by the league office wasn't sufficient in light of what happened, including Green, who discussed Sarver's sentence in his most recent podcast episode. I do think it's insane that Robert Sarver is going to receive a one-year ban and a $10 million fine and just return to the sidelines next year and return to the building next year, Green said. It goes against everything that the NBA stands for. The four-time All-Star demanded Sarver's dismissal. Donald Sterling, since he was so irate, Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, was singled out for appreciation by Green for some of the stances he's taken over the years. In addition, he praised the league for providing unrivaled support for his athletes. But in this instance, he feels that the association's top brass made a mistake. According to the Warriors star, this punishment sends a clear message that some individuals, particularly those at the ownership level, operate under different standards than the rest of the league's staff. Green has a sideline role in the Sarver story. When Earl Watson, a black and Hispanic coach, was Phoenix's head coach in October 2016, one of the stories surfaced during this process. Fans are pleased with how well the NBA handled penalizing Robert Sarver. However, they are not happy and want him and all other men to be removed. Fans want him to be financially independent of the NBA and make no money. As they seek several limits on him, they also want him expelled from the league, and truthfully, they aren't wrong to say that. We have come to the end of the video. Do share your views in the comment section below. Make sure to like and share the video, and consider subscribing to the channel. Also, enable the notifications button so that you don't miss any videos in the future. Until next time, goodbye.